How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Virtual History 360. I'm Mr. Wade, and this is your yesterday's history for our North and South unit, Level 2. All right, so Level 2 says, I can identify the similarities and the differences of the North and the South in the antebellum period. Antebellum meaning the time before Civil War. Okay, so that was the antebellum period. We're going to be looking at the economies and way of life, so let's get started. In the North, we had smaller farms. We had the Industrial Revolution with the rise of factories and industry, most of the industry being in the North. We talked about the low mill girls, and child labor and long hours and dangerous conditions and low wages. We talked about immigrants coming in and negotiating for jobs rather than wages so that if you have nothing, you'll take whatever you can get, and that's displacing other people working, trying to make more. So it was a very complex era, but also the rise of cities in these industrious eras all kind of fall into the same idea. The huge population density and the horrible conditions that came out of deregulation, right? And then comparing that to the South, you had the plantation economy. Now, there were small farms in the South. If there were rocky terrain or, up in the mountains, there weren't large plantations. But in the lowlands, in the flat areas near the rivers, that's where you find these large plantations. Now, you have to remember that the number of huge, wealthy families was actually quite small. Of the between 10 and 12 million people living in the South, there was only about 10,000 or so families that were wealthy enough and they owned more than 50 slaves. That's kind of the marker that we're measuring with. So a minority of people, but huge political influence because they had the economic power, right? But we talked about the plantation economy, the cash crops, and how King Cotton made up 75% of the exports, right? So going through all of this, comparing North and South, here's your bell work question for today. Between the North and the South, tell me one thing they had in common and one thing that was different about them. Okay, so compare and contrast. One thing the North and South had in common, and then one idea that the North and South differed on. That's your bell work. Go ahead and do that. Be awesome. And for Virtual History 360, I'm Mr. Wade. I'll see you next time.